It is 11 o'clock. I guess we're going to go ahead and get started. Hello there. My name is Quentin Russell, and I am the content marketing specialist here at Doc365. And today, I'm going to be talking to you guys about how to manage storage in SharePoint Online. Before we get started, I wanted to wish everyone a happy new year, and I'd like to thank you all for coming out today. New year, new SharePoint Basics series. Well, new year, same old SharePoint Basics series, but that's how it be. So again, I hope everyone had a wonderful new year, and here's hoping that 2021 will be a lot better than last year, because I'm sure that if you're like me, you probably feel like 2020 was at least 10 years in and of itself. So again, like I was saying, we're going to be talking about how to manage storage in SharePoint Online. So before we get started, we're going to take a look at what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to look over how storage works in SharePoint Online, specifically what the limits are, what all you can do with it, that sort of stuff. Then we're going to move on to common storage mistakes that people make with SharePoint Online. That's pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. After that, we're going to go over how to manage storage. During that process, we will be going into a live SharePoint environment where I will be showing you some of what we are going to be talking about throughout this webinar. And then finally, we're going to talk about some tips for optimizing storage, things that you can do. And then finally, we're going to end out with a quick question and answer session. How that's going to work is that throughout the course of the webinar, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. That way, when it comes time for the question and answer session, I can just go consult the chat, read everything out. If I can't answer your question on the spot, I will make sure to research it and send you an answer alongside any the webinar recording that you will be receiving for free today. I'd also like to apologize for any noise that you might hear in the background. My cats have decided that that 11 o'clock is party time. And so they are running around my apartment, freaking out, which is fantastic. They're adorable. I love them. At least that's what I like to tell myself as they break my stuff. So anyway, that aside, let's kind of move into things. So before we get started, we're going to really quick, I'd like to talk about Doc365, who we are, what we do. We're a company located in Jacksonville, Florida. We have over 17 years of experience working with SharePoint to deliver a wide variety of different solutions. We work with companies in all sorts of industries. Some of those include YMCAs, United Ways. We do work with King's Hawaiian, Bakemark, Jack's Federal Credit Union, AB&B Federal Credit Union. Just really a wide range of industries. We primarily work within the United States and Canada. As part of that, we also offer, with our services, we offer free unlimited support. So whenever you need us, we are going to be there to help you. Recent customer surveys have indicated that our product and support are exceptional and people are very satisfied with everything that we're doing. The kind of solutions we offer, we do intranet, we do customer relationship management solutions, we do contract management. We just recently launched a new safety, compliance, and risk management software, something that I will briefly talk about at the end of the webinar. So feel free to stick around then to learn more about that. Our mission, so like why we do what we do. Our vision is to break down silos and build stronger employee engagement across your organization. We want to cut down on people who tend to kind of hoard information, don't share it with others, and we want to provide you with the tools and resources to pool all of your employees' knowledge, bring it together so that they can collaborate and learn from each other so that you can build stronger engagement, that they can be more in tune with what they're doing, and so that you'll be able to do what you want to do as a company, but better. In terms of our upcoming webinars, we have, just like with the end of last year, we will be doing a webinar every week on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Make sure to check those out if you want to see our future webinars. and sign up for those, feel free to go to our website, mydoc365.com/webinars. There you will be able to sign up for about the next 3 or 4 webinars, depending on what time you come in today. We will be posting the next one today. So next week, we'll be talking about 7 tips for workplace safety, specifically what you can do to kind of keep your team safe as you contemplate going back into the office in a maybe not post-coronavirus world, but a late coronavirus world. Things that you can do to minimize the spread, keep your team safe, and then also keep people safe while they're working remotely. After that, 2 weeks from today, will be the next part of our SharePoint Basics series. We'll be talking about external sharing, so everything that you can do to ensure that you're able to share with users outside of your organization for seamless collaboration with third parties, and not having to worry about things being unsafe, people accessing information they shouldn't be able to, that sort of thing. And then finally, 3 weeks from now, on the 26th, we will be talking about how SharePoint modernizes contract management, specifically how it helps you through each stage of the process and can help you overcome the effects of using an outdated contract management process. With that said, storage, SharePoint Online, how does it work? Well, basically, as you're well aware, SharePoint is essentially specifically in SharePoint Online, they're websites that Microsoft creates that allow you to add and store documents in document libraries. That's pretty simple. It's self-explanatory. I don't think I really need to explain that much about how it works, but there are some things that you need to know about storage in SharePoint Online. So when you get an Office 365 subscription and you get SharePoint Online, you will receive at base 1 terabyte of storage per SharePoint per Office 365 tenant. Additionally, you will get an extra 10 gigabytes of storage per license that you purchase. So specifically, if you have 100 users, at purchase, you will receive that 1 terabyte base, and then you will get 1 terabyte for those 100 users. So essentially, you'll have 2 terabytes of storage space in your Office 365 tenant for SharePoint. Additionally, you can purchase extra storage from Microsoft. It's about 20 cents per month per gigabyte. So while that seems kind of cheap, it does add up over time, because essentially that's 5 gigabytes for $1. You want 500 gigabytes, that's an extra $100 a month. So, that's the basic stuff that you need to keep in mind when we talk about storage. You have a lot of storage, but it can creep up on you. Because I'm sure with larger organizations and everything, if you aren't keeping a close handle on how you're storing documents, you might run into the fun message, SharePoint is running out of space. That's not, I should note that that is a very generous warning. When you get that warning, you're not going to get it when you're at when you're maybe 1 or 2 gigs away from going over your storage limit. It'll be more like 20, 30, 40, 50. So you'll have time to, catch that. Here's some additional limits that you need to know. This is the very high end of SharePoint. So basically, this is like the hard cap stuff. No matter what you're paying, this is going to be the max. So you can have up to 25 terabytes of storage per site. This does not apply to the tenant. So you can have an unlimited amount of storage in your tenant. Well, not unlimited, but basically each site can be up to 25 terabytes. I don't know how you're going to get a site that has 25 terabytes, but that's, it's good to know. And then per Office 365 tenant, you can have up to 2 million sites. So whatever 2 million times 25 terabytes is, that's the maximum amount of storage space that you can purchase within SharePoint Online. In terms of how the largest files that you can upload to a site, you can only have 100. Your files can only run up to 100 gigabytes. That used to be 15 gigabytes, but it did increase recently. So, if you want to, I don't know, create a I don't even know how you'd get a document that's 100 gigabytes, but that's something to keep in mind. per document library within SharePoint Online, you can only have up to 30 million files and folders. So again, absurdly large. You're never going to run up on that. And then finally, you can have up to 50,000 major versions of a file. So version 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 511 minor versions of a file. So essentially 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. Again, that's just the absolute astronomically absurd storage limits. So that's not anything you really need to know about or really think about. It's just something to, you know, kind of a fun fact. But essentially, one thing you need to know about SharePoint is that it does not have any built-in backup capabilities. So all of your files are stored in there, but if anything happens to your tenant and everything, you know, Microsoft will help you recover the files and everything. It'll probably be able to roll back to a previous version of your SharePoint site, but it does not do something like an iCloud backup or anything like that, where it pulls a full image of what you're doing. And then you know, it does not keep an up-to-date backup of what you're doing. And however, you can, at least automatically, however, there are ways that you can kind of create soft backups of everything. So you can enable file versioning. So basically, you know, as you make changes to the document, it'll create new versions of the file. So they don't show up in the document libraries. You instead have to go into the document itself to view that, like the different versions of the file. However, it still does take up space within SharePoint Online. And then you can also set up retention policies. So that's basically, well, retention is less about backing up files and more about, you know, deleting older files. So you can set up policies that will automatically delete files as they reach a certain age, as they reach certain criteria, that sort of thing. We'll be talking about that and going over how to set those up in a bit. One thing I should note is that with your with your versions and everything, those do take up storage data. So, and then if you set up your retention policies to like archive old files or something like that, that'll still take up storage within SharePoint Online. So like I said, file versioning, it essentially creates a historical record of all the changes. So it'll show you the date and time of when these changes were made. It'll show you the user who made the change, and then it'll also show, and like I said, it'll just show you what they did. Any users with the right permissions can access this. They can view it, they can delete it, and they can restore to a previous version if they'd like to. File versioning is great, not only because it allows you to kind of keep track of all of that information, but it can also help you with, say, compliance. You know, going back through, making sure that you took the right steps with the file and everything, so that you made the right changes. If you need to work in multiple versions of a file, say you have a, you know, say you're working with a technical document and you need to go back and access older specifications, but you don't want to have everything spread out in multiple locations. You can just say, okay, so this is version 1, and then you can set up subversioning. So you can like 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. And then when you move on to the second version of a technical document with updated specifications and everything, you can have that be version 2. People can still access version 1, and then you can just have version 2, 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, et cetera, et cetera. So it's pretty useful. It also allows you to restore. So if someone makes a change and it turns out to be a really bad change, it's really easy to just go back, find the version of the file where they didn't make those changes, and then just, you know, replace the terrible document. File retention, this is pretty self-explanatory. Basically, you need to have a global administrator account to set up retention policies in Office 365. But basically, this allows you to determine how long SharePoint will store old files for you, what criteria you want to use, what happens with these older files, that sort of thing. Again, we'll be covering how to do that in about 3 to 5 minutes. So moving on. So what are some common storage mistakes that people make? Well, first of all, this is less about an actual process, like an actual SharePoint thing, and this is more of a process thing. People tend to have too many documents and then they spread them out across too many folders. While the folders themselves don't take up a lot of space, the more and more subfolders you create, that actually takes up little bits of storage space within SharePoint Online. So instead, what Microsoft really recommends you do is basically just kind of basically post documents within SharePoint within the actual document library itself. And instead of using folders to separate out everything, use metadata. Metadata allows you to tag folders with certain things so that instead of having to just search through the different folders, you can type in the metadata tag and it'll pull up all of the files that have that metadata associated with it, like that specific custom metadata tag associated with it. So you can maintain flat architecture, which Microsoft really wants you to be doing. They don't want you to have tall architecture with sites, subsites, folders, subfolders. Instead, they just want to have you, have the site, have the folder, tag everything. Another mistake that people make is that they have too many versions of a document or they keep too many copies of a document. So the first one's pretty simple. You set it up so that you create like you're keeping way too many older versions of documents. So your versioning policy for a site is saying that you're keeping somewhere around like 1,000 versions of a document that people are working in heavily. Each of those 1,000 versions is taking up space and can impede on how much you're able to store within a site and can take away from your overall storage space in your SharePoint. Additionally, you can have too many copies of a document. This is less of a SharePoint thing, and again, more of a process thing. A document can get lost. People might not access it properly. They might, someone might be working on it on one thing here. Someone might be working on another thing here, and they're working towards the same thing, and it could functionally be the same document that they could be collaborating in, but instead they're working on their different versions and then bringing it together and synthesizing that into a third completely unique document. So to create one final document, you're creating 3, which takes up space. Well, and that might not be a lot of space if everyone in your company's doing it. Say you have 100 to 200 employees, so essentially 50 times 3, if they're doing that monthly and everything, they're creating 150 documents a month when they really should only be creating 50. So that's 100 extra documents, which might not be that large. You're doing that, I don't know, every month. So that's 1,200 extra documents a year that you don't need to be making that take up storage space, and you're likely not deleting them, which kind of goes on to the 4th one, but we'll talk about that right now. Basically, you're failing to delete older files. They're files that might not potentially be completely relevant to what you're doing. They might be failed drafts. They might be projects that never really went anywhere. Or they might be someone creating a document and then just moving away from it and not using it. That still takes up storage space. So you really need to find you need to, set up you need to set up retention policies. You need to go back and delete older documents that people aren't working with, that aren't relevant to your organization right now, so that you can ensure that you're having space to do what you want to do in the future. And it also makes it easier to find other documents because people aren't having to search through your document libraries and everything and having to scroll through all of these extra documents you don't need. And then finally, this isn't something you really think of, but you need to empty your recycle bin. That's pretty simple. Literally just go in, empty the recycle bin, clears up some space, because SharePoint does not, when you go to delete a document within SharePoint, it does not automatically get completely deleted. It instead goes to your recycling bin, which isn't a lot. It adds up over time. However, say you're doing like a mass cleanup of everything, you're throwing everything into the recycling bin. Just make sure that when you are doing that mass cleanup, you go and empty your recycling bin to completely empty everything out. So, how to manage storage? Pretty simple. Empty your recycling bin on a regular basis. Limit the number of file versions that you store. This also includes the number of the copies of documents you're doing. Just make sure that if multiple people are working on the same project, create one document and have them collaborate within the document. SharePoint makes it really easy to do that. Multiple people can be within a document at the same time, and they can add, make changes, restore things, depending on what permissions they have. Also, you want to have retention policies. So, set up policies so that if a document hasn't been touched in a year, it gets deleted. I'll show you how you can really create that in a second. And then finally, just cut down on the number of folders and sites you're using so that you're not having extra little bits of storage of, sites and folders and everything that are taking up little bits of data floating around, so that while they're not a lot, if you have a lot of them, they can add up over time. So really quick, as the kind of practical demonstration bit of this, first of all, I'm going to show you how to find and empty your recycling bin in your SharePoint sites. Then I'm going to show you how to set up and use document versioning. And then finally, I'm going to show you how to set up retention policies in SharePoint Online. So first one is going to be really simple. I mean, really simple. So real quick, let's share that screen and switch this over to what the heck? I apologize for this. Give it a second. One second. Nope, internet home. So really quick, we're going to go navigate to, so as you can see, here is our SharePoint site. Really simple. Let's go to Team Site webinar from a previous webinar that we did. So as you can see right here, here's a basic team site. You want to find the recycling bin. Really simple. Click here. From the quick start menu, really simple. I figured we'd just start with a really, really easy one. If you actually had anything in the recycling bin right up here, you'd see something that says, hey, would you like to empty your recycling bin? Just click that, empties it, you're good to go. Really simple, really easy, really clean. Now, here's how to set up document versioning in your SharePoint sites. So really quick, let's go to your library settings. I figure I'd start with a gimme. So here's what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to go to versioning settings. You need to have the proper permission. So you do need to be a site owner or a approved user to do this. If you have any questions about how to make someone an approved user to set up versioning in SharePoint Online, we did do a webinar on user and group management in SharePoint Online. Feel free to go back and check that out. mydoc365.com/webinars. If you scroll down, you should be able to find it and access the recording for free. You can also find it on our YouTube channel. Just search Doc365 on YouTube. So basically, really simple. So go to versioning settings. You can set it up so that people, you can require content approval for submitted items. So basically, when someone makes a change, they have to get the approval of someone within, an administrator or a designated user for a change to go onto a document. So this is really good for editing and everything. And if you are submitting something or making changes to a document, and someone has to have the final say on that, pretty simple, pretty easy. It's really good for that. Document versioning settings. So basically this is the overall version of it. So you can say, okay, I want to create a version each time I edit the file in the document library. You can have it so that you can either create major versions or create minor versions. Minor version. So basically a major version is called, hey, this is version 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then there are major and minor versions. So basically you have the 1, the 1.1, the 1.2, and then you can designate whether you want to go to to skip up to 2.0. Additionally, you can specify the overall number of major versions that you can have. Right now, the default is at 500. However, you can say, okay, we only want to have 10, 15, 115. 15 or whatever. 500 is fine enough for right now. And then you can also set it up so that it keeps drafts for the following number of major versions. Wait, what the heck? There we go. So basically, this is when you're actually creating the major versions, you can say, okay, how many of these do we want to have? So like 10, 15, et cetera, et cetera. And then also this only comes up for if you're doing major and minor versions for draft item security. Basically, you can say who can actually read the items, who can edit them, and that sort of thing. Finally, you can say whether or not a document needs to be checked out. Document check-in, check-out is a major feature of SharePoint. So in order for someone to be able to edit, so basically you can say, okay, either one person can edit it at a time or everyone can edit it at a time. So when someone checks out a document, no one else is able to access it until they check it back in. So then after you do all that, you say, okay, and it sets up the versioning. It'll implement your versioning settings for the site. If you set everything up with a hub site, you determine that you can determine those settings at a hub site level, and then that will go be implemented for all of the sites that are connected to that site down. So I really recommend setting up hub sites. If you have any questions about those, we also did a webinar about that back in December. Again, go check that out, mydoc365.com/webinars. So in order to access and see the different versions of a document, it's pretty simple. So really quick, we're going to go into this folder. I created this document, creatively labeled document. As you can see with my very eloquent writing, you know, there's been some minor edits to this and everything. It's great. It's fun. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to go into File, and we're going to go into Info. And why am I unable to see the version history? Let's check that real quick. File, Info. There we go. It just took time to load. Wasn't able to access it. So as you can see, version 1 was made, you know, when I first created the document, blank slate. And then here's where I made an edit here. And then here's where I made an edit today. And then you can, so there's one version because I do not have subversion, because I do not have minor versioning available. It essentially happens whenever you, so any changes that you, so the way the versioning works is that, so this is when I first created the document, and then I exited the document and it created the version of that document. Then I came into the document, made the change, exited out of the document, and that created the second version. And then I came in here, made these 2 edits, and then exited the document. So that created the third version. If you want to restore something, you can save as a copy. So if you have a previous version of a document that you want to use, but you still want to use the newer version as well, you can just save this as a copy, and it'll create a copy within the same document library. And then you can rename it standard document procedure rules apply. So we're going to cancel out of that because I don't know why it's taking forever. And then you can also restore the version of the document. So basically you say, okay, this is where we're at. This is what we want to see. I don't like those changes that I made, so we're going to go back to this one. Again, pretty simple, pretty easy. Now, this is the fun part. Let's go talk about retention policies. So real quick, I'm going to pull up. So what you want to do is you want to go into the Office, the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center. As part of this, you want to go into your policies. And as you can see right here, you'll see under data, you'll see retention. So this is where you set up all of your, this is where you set up your retention policies. So you want what you, right now we don't have any retention policies. However, let's click this. So create a new policy. It will take time to load. So you name the policy. So you say, okay, we'll call this the old document policy, old document deletion. And then you go into settings. So you say, do I want to retain content? Okay, so I want to retain it for 1 year and retain the content based off of either when it was created, which I don't recommend because it's very inflexible, and when it was last modified. And then you can determine whether or not you want to either delete the item or, you know, just send it to, you know, send it to the recycling bin. So basically delete it over time, or so this is an ongoing policy, or you can set it up so that you delete all of the content within your SharePoint right now. And then you say, okay, I want to delete all of the content that's older than that has not been modified within the last year. Which is, again, so basically this is, I want to retain things for up to a year. This is an ongoing policy, and this is a immediate deletion policy that allows you to mass delete everything within different locations. You can set up more advanced retention settings so you can detect content that retains specific words and phrases. But we're not really going to talk about that because that's a bit more complicated. That requires the use of advanced metadata and tagging, which we will be talking about in a future webinar. So after this, you get to choose the locations that so in this instance, since we're doing a mass deletion of content, which we will not be implementing, by the way, you go into the you go into the locations and then you can choose where it is. So you can choose people's email inboxes, the SharePoint sites. You can choose which sites they want to do. You can also choose to exclude any sites that you want to, if that contains any sensitive information. You can go into people's OneDrive accounts that are connected to the Office 365, any groups, and any other connected data sources. That's pretty simple. And then once you choose this, it'll ask you to review your settings. It'll take up to 1 day to apply it all. Basically, the larger the retention setting and the more sites that you affect with it, the longer it's going to take to fully implement. But once you do that, it'll make those changes and then, you know, say goodbye to all that content and say hello to a ton of free space. However, we're not going to do this because we have a lot of sensitive information in here and we don't want to screw with that because that would be really bad. So that said, let's head back over to the PowerPoint. And so basically, here's some quick tips that you can use to optimize storage within SharePoint Online. Again, this is pretty simple. Delete files that are older than a year. That's just a good blanket policy. If it hasn't, if no one's touched it in at least a year, delete it. If you want to be really aggressive about it, because if you're a larger company that has more and more files that you're using and more storage space you're using, maybe try 6 months to maybe, you know, anywhere from 6 months to a year. Again, another one is limit the number of users of sites that users are creating. This include so basically don't let people just create sites all willy-nilly because that takes up data. Again, not a lot, but it still takes up a fair amount, which kind of ties into the next one, which is you should be implementing a governance policy. So you should have a policy for when people are able to create sites, when they're able to create folders, how they're able, who is able to access different versions of documents, who can restore them, who can make copies. Because if you don't have any sort of governance policy, you will struggle with actually, you know, keeping storage down. You will struggle with storage problems because people will just have random sites and documents and things floating around. And if you're working with more stuff, that's going to edge out what you can do. And then finally, go back and check your site storage regularly. So really quick, we are actually going to go back into SharePoint real quick so I can show you how to do that. So going into here, so we'll go to library, site information, and then go to view all site settings. And then if you want to view specific storage in your SharePoint sites and everything, come into here under site collection administration, you want to go into storage metrics. And that'll show you the actual data that is being, it'll show you a breakdown of the data within your SharePoint tenant. It'll also show you not only, it'll show you within the site collection, you can set up limits on site collections and everything, which you can do at the highest level, but that's a bit more complicated and requires a global admin with this. And so basically when you create a new site, SharePoint just rips out a chunk of data that you need and adds data to it as you need to. But you can also create limits for sites and everything. But again, that's a higher tier thing. But you can actually see a full breakdown, what percentage of the storage your site is using. You can, if you have any quotas set up, you can see how much of that it's using. So you can keep an eye on that. Make sure to check this regularly so that you're not, you're not going over on the amount of storage that you're using on each of your SharePoint sites. This can really help you keep that down and help you avoid running out of space, which, you might think that 1 terabyte is a lot, But if you're doing a lot and if you're busy and if you have a lot of employees, it's really easy to run up on that. So real quick before we go, does anyone have any questions? If not, real quick before you go, I do want to talk to you really quick about the new product that we're launching. It's called SafePoint. It's a comprehensive software designed to optimize how your business approaches safety, quality, compliance, risk policies, and procedure management, and more. Basically, it's a full safety, quality, risk assessment management system built within your SharePoint environment. So you're not going to have to learn how to use anything else. You're just able to jump in, start using it at your leisure. It'll help you keep people safe. It'll help you respond to any issues and problems as they arise, that help you figure out if there's anything worth looking into so that you can avoid having kind of minor problems balloon out into massive issues. For A Patel asked, yes, you will be getting a recording of this webinar, and we will also be posting it live on our YouTube channel. So feel free to look out for that. See that in your email this afternoon. So again, with SafePoint and everything, it's a great system. We're just launching it. Honestly, you won't be able to find a better, more cost-effective safety and risk management system out there. So if you'd like to learn more about that, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to schedule a demo to go over that with you, 30 to 45 minutes. No obligation. So, by just attending the webinar, you're not locked in, you're not signing a deal with the devil. You're just able to take a look at it, see what's going on. And yeah, so with that said, if you're interested in taking a look at SafePoint, if you're interested in taking a look at any of our other systems, our intranet portal, our contract management system, feel free to reach out to us. Our phone number is 904-309-9970. You can email us at info@mydoc365.com, or you can reach out to me personally at qrussell@mydoc365.com. Thank you very much. I hope you all had a great day. This has been Quentin Russell, the content marketing specialist here at Doc365. And I hope that you have a great day and a wonderful new year.